Hi everyone, I'm really excited to be part of Stories from the Studio, and thank you to Southern Tablelands Arts for giving me the opportunity to showcase my studio and some of my work. My name is Andrew Jeffrey Quabbin-Amos. I'm a writer and teacher living here in Goulburn. My work seeks to explore complex identities, liminal landscapes and social constructs of race. My own background is that I am Anglo-Ghanaian in heritage, and my children are Anglo-Ghanaian Australian. Okay, through my work I'm hoping that readers really join me in investigating hidden histories, in looking at stories that may not have been told, especially looking at themes of hybridity, looking at culture, syncretic culture, the different influences, how they can mix. I'm very excited to let you know that my debut novella, which is called Nicked Names, is coming out on the 16th of July. So let me just tell you a little bit about the novella. High school student Norman Zebra Smith, half British and half Ghanaian, lives at the crossroads of race and identification. In response to racial slurs from other students, Norman embraces hybridity and forms a rainbow alliance with other ethnic minority students against black and white judgments. Inspired to act by a colourful combination of hip-hop, Shakespeare and his teacher Mr. Neal, as well as the US civil rights movement, Norman and his allies used the unlikely arena of a high school auditorium to expose the racist bully Goodwin and his henchmen. Choosing to own their nicked names, Norman and his friends take centre stage, silencing their opponents and proving the power of words to unite us all. This chapter is called History Lessons, but spelt Lessens. In a darkened room, an image of a passive black African slave was projected beyond the illuminated tunnel of fairy dust. Slaves were taken from Africa and transported to America and the Caribbean. To accompany the humiliation, Mr. Gibbons, the humanities teacher, showed a slide of a lowly dark figure bowed down, buckling under the prowess of his plantation master, whip in hand. Like the nicknames, this was a lesson to put Norman in his place. He was disappointed by the limitations of these lessons that conspired to steal his rich identity. As Mr. Gibbons continued, Norman noticed the class bully Chris Goodwin smirk. A familiar reddish tinge of embarrassment and humiliation flushed through Norman. "At least you lot don't blush," he'd been told before. How couldn't they see the red glow in his caramel complexion? It seemed like colour blindness was selective. He felt open and raw to everyone around him, like a fresh carcass open to a pack of hyenas, as comical as a baboon's bottom. Where was the mention of the Ashanti fighting off the British in West Africa, or the Maroon Rebellion in the Caribbean? He knew there was much more to the historical narrative than this slideshow, or rather, this sideshow. Norman had seen postcards from relatives of chiefs dripping with gold, adorned in bright kente and adinkra symbolism. This narrative was not so black and white. His home was full of beautifully crafted masks, stools, paintings and cloth that illuminated any obfuscation of the dark continent. So first of all, I'm working on adapting Nicked Names into a play script. Just behind that, I've actually got some of a draft of a memoir that I'm working on. Further down, because I've run out of desk space, I've got some books about the Akan tribe in Ghana. That's the tribe that my mum comes from. An idea for writing a novel based on the Akan tribe. I'm also hoping to start a master's in research in Africa and its diaspora. Just behind that, I have got some ideas about a project hopefully about places in Goulburn, and that will be poetry. And just to the side of it, I've got some T.S. Eliot selected poems that I'm enjoying at the moment, which I'm reading just really to tune my ear to certain poems before I write my own. This is from my daughter Ruby. This is actually a symbol called Sankofa. It's a Ghanaian symbol which really means don't forget what you have left behind, in a sense, and that's why the head points backwards. Right, so I perform frequently at Smith's Alternative in Canberra. They run a wonderful open mic event and they showcase other poets as well, so I try and go there as many Mondays as I can. I've also recently been part of a spring writers festival that was actually based in Ithaca in New York, and that was with a collective of poets that have produced work on Afro-futuristic themes. I also write articles and poetry for a literary newsletter called Sound the Abeng, which is based in Florida, but it has international contributors. That literary newsletter really advances and amplifies the voices of the black diaspora, the African diaspora, but also Aboriginal identities throughout the world.